Don't know about everyone else, but daylight savings time this week was kind of an interesting experiment or an interesting adjustment. So I found myself being fine on Sunday, but each day this week, that extra hour that we've lost has kind of shown up in different ways or felt like it's been more than 1 hour that's been gone. So I'm glad that we're all here in this time and space together, spending this hour with me and Tails, who's very much awake this morning, to spend some time doing some yoga together. If you are on the email list, you might have noticed that I'm taking next week off. It's my spring break for my job. And so I'm going to just take a break and pause and spend the week just away from time and away from screens, hopefully. And so, but I will have recordings available. And so if you've been taking these classes and that will be a gap week for you, recordings will be sent out before then if you need to use them. So, but today in this time, just go ahead and find yourself in a comfortable space on your mat or your floor space that you are using for yoga, and just move yourself into a seated position. That can look different for each of us, but whatever you feel comfortable in this moment right now as a seat, go ahead and find that and just begin to take 3 breaths. And over those 3 breaths, don't worry about changing anything about them or deepening them. Just begin to notice your body and your breath. And what I mean by that is just begin to notice everywhere that your body is in contact with the ground underneath you. And notice how each of those body parts feels. And so as you're breathing in, maybe you're starting to notice what your feet feel like. Do they feel warm? Do they feel comfortable? Do you want to just go grab some socks real quick? And then on your next breath, maybe you notice, what does your seat feel like? Do you feel comfortable sitting down, or does it feel a little uncomfortable? And as it feels uncomfortable, as we often talk about in Yin practice, if you feel any sense of pain, please change what you're doing. Do not push through the next hour of this class in pain. I want you to be able to feel the edge of sensation, but I don't ever want you to feel a sense of pain. And so as you're continuing to notice your body and your breath, and as you're continuing to notice what it feels like to be sitting, maybe for the first time today, begin to now, if you feel comfortable, close your eyes and consciously begin to notice how deep your breath is. And over the next 2 breaths, begin to see if you can make your breath a little bit deeper. And if this is the first time that you're joining us, maybe you want to try one of the breath visualizations, such as imagining that you have a balloon in your belly, and that as you breathe in, you can fill your entire belly up like a giant balloon. And then you hold it for just a moment, and then slowly exhale just as much as, not slower than how you inhaled. And take 3 breaths like this on your own, beginning to deepen your breath, maybe beginning to close your eyes if that's comfortable for you. And just really dropping into this moment in your body today, this morning. And noticing anywhere in your body that feels tense, anywhere that you're hoping to maybe loosen up, stretch out, or remove some tension from over the next hour. And just really come into your body and your place and your mat. And take those breaths on your own. And once you feel like you have fully come into this place and this time, go ahead and just begin to drop your right ear to your right shoulder, noticing how this feels across the left side of your neck as you breathe, noticing what a deep breath feels like with your head tilted to the side and your neck stretched out. If you'd like to deepen this, you can take your hands from wherever they are and kind of stretch them out and down into like a little pyramid triangle position. And you might notice that as you stretch out your left arm with your right ear tilted towards your shoulder, that the left side of your neck gets a little bit more of a stretch. You can experiment with rotating with your palm up towards the ceiling and down, seeing if that changes anything for you in a way that you would like. And take one more breath here. Then just look down to your right shoulder and trace your chin across your chest so that your chin is just dropped and your head is dangling and you're looking down either towards the ground or towards your belly button, eyes open or closed. Spend 3 breaths here, stretching out the back side of your neck, just letting your head hang. And then once you feel complete, go ahead and just continue that tracing of your chin across your chest to where now you're looking down at your left shoulder. And then if you like this sensation on the back of the right side of your neck, stay here. But if you'd like to have your left ear tilted towards your left shoulder, go ahead and just rotate your head so that that's the case for you. And again, you can keep your hands either on your lap or you can maybe stretch them out into that little triangle pyramid shape. Notice what that does for the right side of your neck. Spend 3 breaths here at your own pace. And then once you're ready, look back down at that left shoulder and then trace your chin back across so that your head's dangling and you're stretching out the back side of your neck again with your chin tilted down, your neck just hanging. And on your next breath, we'll try stretching out the front part of our neck. So on an inhale breath, go ahead and bring your head up to neutral so that your eyes open or closed, just looking forward. Take a breath here. And on an exhale breath, drop your head back so that you're looking up towards the ceiling, stretching out the front part of your neck, beginning to open our chest. We'll just spend a couple breaths here because this can be a really strange position to be in. And on an inhale, just coming back to neutral. And we'll just roll our shoulders a couple times before we begin moving into our first position. Just inhale your shoulders up towards your ears. And just roll them back 2 or 3 times. Inhaling, rolling them up to your ears. Exhale, dropping them back behind you and rolling them. And we'll do that in the opposite direction. So inhaling our shoulders back and up towards our ears and rotating them forward. And so our first pose this morning is just going to be caterpillar, which is a version of a seated forward fold. If folks prefer standing positions, just know that I don't offer standing positions in these Yin classes, as they can often mess with our blood pressure and different things like that, that several of us have opted to stay in grounded poses for the time being. But I will always offer kind of alternative poses if that's something you prefer to take or are curious about things. And so caterpillar pose will be our first pose today. And so wherever you are on your mat, go ahead and rotate yourself so that you can stick your legs out in front of you. And with your legs out in front of you, maybe you need to lift up each side for a second and move out any flesh underneath you so that you can sit comfortably. And if you have props, I like to use a bolster in this prop, but you can use pillows or things like that, or no props. And so we're just going to find ourselves seated with our legs stretched out in front of us, seated flat on the floor. Maybe flex and point our toes for just a moment to wake up our ankles. And then take an inhale breath. Sit up as tall as you possibly can. And then on an exhale breath, just begin to fold yourself forward and drape yourself over your legs. And you will begin to notice exactly how loose or tight your hamstrings are this morning. And so if you'd like to bend your knees a little bit, maybe place a bolster on top of your legs so that you can fold forward more comfortably with your knees a little bit bent, and just drape yourself over that prop. And really see how much you can bend forward. Don't stretch yourself to the point of pain, and then drop your head down And see where your hands land. Maybe your hands land on top of your feet. Maybe they land next to your legs on the mat. But just allow yourself to just fold forward, draping over this. Maybe you do not move very far, and that's okay. Use your inhales and your exhales to guide yourself into the pose and let something go and soften on an exhale. Get yourself comfy over the next 2 to 3 breaths, and then we'll just hold this pose for a couple minutes, letting things soften across our back, letting things soften across our hamstrings and our hips. Just noticing our bodies this morning. And as we're here in this caterpillar pose for a couple more minutes, maybe now you feel that things have begun to soften a little bit more. Use the next exhales to just ask your body if they can soften even more. Oftentimes in the mornings, we can be incredibly stiff and incredibly inflexible, or whichever word we prefer to use. And just know that that's okay. If we've been sleeping all night, our bodies have been mostly still. We're just waking them back up, getting things moving again before we get moving again. Just notice what areas feel tense. Ask them if they can relax just a little bit more each breath. And take 3 more deep, mindful, intentional breaths on this side. Maybe as you inhale, see if you can inhale and expand your upper back. And as you exhale, you can drop your head a little bit more. And after that third breath, go ahead and press your hands into the mat on each side of your legs. And then slowly inch yourself back up, one vertebrae at a time. Coming back up to a neutral spine. Stretching those legs out again in front of you. And then the next pose that we're going to come into is a version of a butterfly forward fold, or a butterfly forward fold. And so Tails and I here will adjust so that you can see us. But what you'll do is you'll just bring your legs into a butterfly position. And what that is just soles of the feet together, knees out wide, so that you have these little butterfly wings. And then we're just going to shift a little bit. So we're going to shift our right foot a little bit forward of our left foot. So the soles of our feet are next to each other in a sense, but one foot is forward on our mat ahead of the other. So bring your left foot in a little bit closer to your body, your right foot out so that they're staggered a little bit. And then take an inhale breath and we'll roll our shoulders up and back. So we open our chest a little bit, maybe look up, stretch out your neck more. And then on an exhale breath, just press your hands on the mat, fold yourself forward over your legs. You'll begin to notice that your hips are waking up in this pose. Maybe one more than the other. That's okay. We look symmetrical, but we aren't as symmetrical as we think. And maybe you want to keep your hands on the mat. Maybe you want to bring them to your feet and give yourself a foot massage while we're here in this pose. Whatever works for you. But just drape yourself over your legs. in this butterfly forward fold for a few minutes. And you're also draping yourself over your pet because they're joining you this morning. Just settle in. Use your exhales to invite your body to relax a little bit more. Invite your mind to slow down a little bit more. You can always do that on and off the mat at any time. Got about another minute here on this side. So see if you can invite yourself to stretch a little bit deeper. Never to pain, just riding the wave of sensation. If you think of sensation as a scale of 1 to 10, in the Yin class, we're coming to about a 6. Maybe you want to take yourself to a 7, but no need to push yourself to or certainly past your edge. These classes are not designed to be testing ourselves. We're merely just using our breath and our body to relax and ease and bring a sense of calm back to our nervous system. Taking 3 more breaths here on this side, and then pressing your hands into the mat after those breaths, inching yourself back up to a neutral spine. And then just placing the palms behind you without moving your legs on your mat. And just taking a couple breaths, just pressing your hands into your mat, leaning back a little bit, having this kind of opposite sensation in some sense. Maybe looking up to the ceiling, stretching out your arms, stretching out your legs. And then coming back up to neutral so that we can shift which foot is in front. So I had my left leg a little bit farther into my body. So I'll bring my legs back into a neutral butterfly and then shift that around. Bring my right foot in a little bit farther than my left. My left foot's out in front of me. Take an inhale. And then on an exhale, just drape yourself forward this time again. The opposite hip from last time might be feeling a strong sense of sensation. And maybe you can fold more forward in this pose on this side. That's okay if you want to. Just allow yourself to drape over, sink in, settle in. Maybe this time you focus on really allowing your head to drop. And letting the back of your neck release and relax. Let your head dangle. Let something go. Let your body release a little bit more. Use your breath as your guide and always come back to it when you find yourself distracted or maybe emotions rise up in a pose. Feel your way through. Use your breath. About halfway through this side, seeing if you'd like to adjust or let anything else shift around so that you can move into this pose more deeply. These can be really simple poses, these butterfly forward folds, but they can feel really, really intense on our hips. So know that whatever you feel is okay. Yin practices and postures are often things that look simple to the outside and feel very sensational on the inside. So if you're judging yourself for having a hard time in something that should be simple, no need to judge yourself. There's nothing simple about working through relaxing our bodies through hard times. It's an accomplishment to even make the choice. Taking 3 more breaths wherever you are, and then pressing your hands into the mat after those breaths, walking yourself back up. Bringing your hands behind you on the mat, just rocking back a little bit, looking up, opening your chest, and then coming back up to a seat, just enough to shift ourselves into tabletop position. So our knees underneath our hips, hands underneath our shoulders. Whenever you're ready, we'll meet here. We'll just move through a couple cat-cows at our own pace. And so we'll inhale, press our hands into the mat, drop our belly, look up, and then exhale, press our hands into the mat, lift the back of our heart, drop our head, and just rotate through, inhaling and exhaling, moving your spine in this way to wake it up this morning. Noticing if as you do this, one side feels easier than the other. We'll move through and ask our breath to help us relax. And maybe you want to wag your tail a little bit, looking over one shoulder towards one hip. Spend the next minute moving intuitively in the way that your body needs through this cat-cow position, letting your spine be a wave as you inhale and exhale and move it around. Then we'll move on to our next position together. And the next position that we're going to move into is just a simple lunge. Sometimes in classes, we come into lunges from standing poses or downward facing dog. And so again, if you would like to use downward dog as a transition, you are more than welcome to. I don't teach inversions in these classes, but to do downward dog, you would tuck your toes, lift your hips up towards the sky and send them back behind you. You're always welcome at any time to try adding downward dog or an inversion in, but I will always guide us through without them. And so from tabletop position, what we'll do is we'll just press both of our hands into our mat, lift up our right leg and bring it between our palms. And so you'll find yourself here in this lunge with your left leg still planted with your knee, your right leg in front. Please make sure that as you bend your knee to be in this lunge, your knee doesn't go past your ankle for safety reasons. So we're not doing this and sending our knee up towards the front of our mat. We're just keeping our knee over our ankle, hands on each side of that front foot. And maybe you want to have a blanket underneath your left knee for padding purposes. If your hands can't reach the ground on either side of your foot, put something underneath them. And we'll just sit in this lunge for just a moment. Maybe you want to inch your foot a little bit farther forward so that you can stretch out across that back left hip. We'll do a brief twist. So plant your left hand on the mat. Inhale and lift up your right arm so that you open up your chest towards that right leg. Your arm is up towards the ceiling, feeling this opening, feeling this mini balance pose here. Just take 3 breaths here. Swinging open. As we get into spring, I'm practicing more chest opening, opening back up into this new phase of things, whatever that looks like for you. On your next breath and an exhale, bring that hand back down to the mat. planted on one side of your foot. And just sit here in this lunge, feeling what it feels like to stretch out our hips in a different way. If you'd like to, you can place your hands on your knee, add a little bit more balance in. This is way more of an active pose, but if you're trying to achieve more balance, this can be helpful to try. And for the second half of this lunge, we can transition into dragon if you'd like to. And so what you'll do to do that is move your hands to the inside of your foot so that both palms are on the inside of your right foot on the mat. And then maybe you want to inch your right foot out a little bit, moving it out closer to the edge of the mat. And then maybe you can come down a little bit farther. Maybe you can move onto your forearms, sinking on the inside of that right hip. Or maybe you want to stay exactly where you are and you feel enough of a stretch and sensation as we shifted our leg a little bit to the right. Whatever you need, we'll be here for just over another minute, and we'll switch to pigeon pose. Coming back to your breath if you've lost it and you've gotten caught up in the sensation. Encouraging your breath to slow down. Counting, inhale to a count of 4 or 5. Exhale to a count of 5 or 6. Always coming back. Your breath is always there. And your version of a deep breath is your version of a deep breath. If my counts don't work for you, come up with your own. Taking one more breath and then moving your right hand back to the outside of your right foot. And we're just gonna inch our right foot across so that we can drop that knee down, just directly dropping it down into pigeon pose. And so pigeon pose has our shin down on the mat, parallel to the front of the mat. Our left leg is out behind us. Maybe you need to adjust it back a little bit. Maybe you need to bring in your left foot a little bit towards your hips so that you can shift all the way down into a traditional pigeon, where our left leg is straight, our right hip is sinking down. And then we can fold across that front leg. So walking your hands out in front of you, coming down onto a prop or down onto forearms. And just letting yourself exhale and sink and relax into this pigeon pose, feeling it across your hips, maybe across your back. And just let something go and settle in. Be here for 3 minutes. Coming back to your breath, coming back to your body. Over the course of the next few breaths, imagine yourself moving out of this pose. And then when you're ready, pressing your hands into the mat, bringing your chest back up, and then tucking your back toes, pressing into the mat, lifting up your right foot. If you like using downward dog, you're welcome to come through downward dog as a transition, but make your way back to tabletop position with your palms underneath your shoulders, your hips underneath your knees underneath your hips, and move through cat-cow in any way that works for you. Inhaling, looking up, exhaling, dropping your head, and again, always looking over, wagging your tail as you need to, moving your spine in any way that it needs as a transition before we move to the other side. Maybe you just sway your hips side to side, feel some things pop. And then pressing your hands into the mat, lifting up your left leg this time and bringing it between your hands so that we're in a lunge on this opposite side, inching it forward on the mat, making sure that your knee doesn't come past your ankle. Tucking your back toe and inching your back leg back a little bit as you need to be in this lunge on this side. One hand on each side of the left foot. And we'll just be here for just a minute and then we'll shift into lizard on this side if you'd like to. And again, if you're looking for more balance, you are welcome to bring your hands up to your knees, press them onto your knee. Feel what it's like to add in some balance here in this lunge. But of course, always feel free to keep your hands down on the mat on either side of the foot. This is enough of a stretch as well across your hips. Taking 5 breaths here. Mindfully, intentionally inhaling all the way down our spine. Exhale, see if we can feel longer. And then moving both hands to the inside of that left foot, guiding the left foot out a little bit if you need to. Then coming down onto forearms if you'd like to be in lizard. Pressing a prop there if you'd like to come down onto that. But we'll spend 10 breath cycles here in this lizard pose on this side, and then we'll move into pigeon. So you're welcome to count that on your own, and then you know where you're going. So you're welcome to go there when you're ready. If you haven't already begun the transition, use your next breath as the last breath before you move to pigeon. Inhaling, pressing your hands into that mat. Exhaling, letting something go. And then shifting your hands to one on each side of your foot again, pressing into that mat. Allowing your left foot to wiggle its way across the mat so that you can have your shin parallel and drop your knee. Tuck your back toe to shift around your back leg enough so that you can be in pigeon pose with your left leg forward this time, putting anything underneath your hips so that it's not just floating if you need to. And then coming down onto forearms, looking forward or dropping your head as you'd like to, and settling into pigeon on this side. This can be an active and a restful pose. Let your body have what it needs from this. Feel the sensation, breathe through it. And about halfway through this side, come back to your breath if you've lost it. Stay focused on being here. On your next breath, placing your hands back on the mat, moving your chest back up, tucking your back toe, pressing your hands into the mat, lifting up that left knee, coming back into tabletop, moving through cat-cow, wag the dog, wag the tail, whatever you need as a transition. And we'll just come into a child's pose for a few moments, about a minute or so. And so from this tabletop position, you can bring your big toes together, move your knees out wide, and then just send your hips back towards your heels, resting them on your heels, stretching your arms out in front of you, dropping your head between your arms and maybe pressing your forehead down into the mat. Maybe you want to roll it side to side, release any tension in your face. And just on your next exhale, open your mouth and just sigh it out and let everything relax. You don't need to hold in this child's pose. Just release, rest, let it go. Be here for about a minute before we move on to our backs. Pressing your hands into the mat, coming back up to tabletop for just a moment. Move if you need to. Then transition yourself into lying on your back, however you would like to get there. Got two-sided poses and then Shavasana. And so once we're lying on our back, go ahead and just bring your knees into your chest, curl them in, wrap your arms around them and give yourself a hug and rock side to side with your knees pulled in. Notice what your back feels like. Notice what it feels like to rock. Maybe you want to rock forwards and backwards if that's comfortable for you. And then we'll just come into happy baby for a minute. So what that is opening up your knees, grabbing the outsides of your feet, just seeing if you can pull your knees into your armpits. Imagining that that's the sensation and the motion that you're taking. So as you pull your feet in, this opens up your lower back, stretches it out, shifts around the blood flow in our legs. Maybe this way you want to rock side to side as well. Maybe you want to stretch out one leg, keeping one knee bent, stretching one leg out, see what that feels like for you. Just make any adjustments that you like, make any movements that you like. Then wrap your arms back around your legs, hug your knees in one more time. Drop your feet to your mat, your knees up to the ceiling, feet planted. We'll just windshield wiper our legs a little bit, dropping them from one side to the other. And then stretch your legs out long on your mat. We'll come into lightsaber and then into crescent moon. So inhale, stretch your arms up over your head. Take a big inhale breath. Stretch your feet as far away from your toes. Stretch your toes as far away from your fingertips as you can. Call this lightsaber pose. Just imagining that you're shooting beams of light out your fingers and your toes, stretching out your entire spine, entire body. And then exhale, let it go. Move into banana crescent moon pose on one side first. So lift up your right leg, move it to the outside of your mat. Lift up your left leg and follow that. And begin to feel a sense of sensation along the left side of your body. Do the same thing with your arms. Lift up your right arm and your left arm. You formed yourself into a banana moon shape here, where your feet and your hands are to the right side of your mat, but your hips are still in the center. Chest is still pointed up to the ceiling. And you should feel this along the entire left side of your body. Maybe you'd like to cross one ankle over the other. You can adjust which one you'd like to whichever works for you, and grab one wrist with the other. Maybe arc a little bit more, but just settle in to this upward facing, chest opening, side body opening pose. And see what a deep breath feels like and how full you can feel. Can you feel yourself expand forwards and backwards, side to side and all around as you inhale and fill yourself up? And then slowly release that as an exhale. Use your breath to guide yourself into this pose. Do that twice more, and then just breathe on your own, at your own pace, as deeply as you'd like or as deeply as your body would like for the next couple minutes on this pose. As you inhale, expanding. As you exhale, releasing more into the mat underneath you, letting yourself melt down. On your next inhale breath, let go of your wrists and uncross your ankles if you have them crossed. And then bring your arms back to center, pointing them straight up towards the ceiling. And lift up your left leg, followed by your right. Move them back to center. Inhale and stretch out fully back into lightsaber, moving your fingers away from your toes. And then exhale, sigh it out. We'll shift to the other side. So lift up your left leg, move it to the left side of your mat, followed by your right. Left arm to the left side, followed by the right. Crossing ankles, grabbing wrists as you'd like to. Feeling this across the entire right side body. Inhale, expanding and feeling into the expansion of your lungs and your chest, your upper back even against the ground. Exhaling, letting it go, letting yourself sink. Inhale, feel into the sensation of your hip. If you've tried crossing one ankle, maybe you want to see what the other one feels like just to notice the sensation. And then choose which one you'd like on top. And settle in on this side. In this lying crescent moon banana pose. And ask yourself, what brought you here today? And what were you hoping to gain out of this practice? And have you gotten it? And if not, that's okay. Maybe you got something else and that's what you needed as well. But see if you were looking for a sense of calm, a sense of rest, if you can give yourself that with your next few breaths in this pose. You always have the power to take a minute, take a breath. Wherever you are, you have to breathe. So you can elongate that breath and use that to calm yourself through uncalm situations. Let something go with an open mouth exhale on your next breath. On your next inhale, let go of your wrists if you've grasped it. Uncross your ankles. And on your next breath, go ahead and come back to neutral, lifting up left leg, right leg, followed by left leg, arms up overhead. Taking that stretch again, fingers opposite toes. And then we'll come through our final pose, which will be a brief supine twist. So with bending your knees, bringing your knees back up to the ceiling with your feet planted. And I like to practice this with eagle legs just because it gives me the sensation of a full body stretch again. And so we'll go to the right side first. So lift up your left leg, cross it over your right leg. And then we'll just drop our knees over to the right side of our mat for just a minute. Your legs crossed or just your knees stacked. Use twists to just wring out anything else that we need to let go of in class. Stimulate our digestive system. And just feel that sensation of stretch and compression simultaneously. Use our breath to allow ourselves to still feel relaxed in a pose that's somewhat internally active. Dropping your knees to the right, keeping your chest open, pointed up towards the ceiling. Feeling this across your hip, across your lower back, across your side body. Twists are a great way to really feel through everything that your body has moved through and work it through. Taking one more breath here. And then on an exhale, using your core, bringing your knees back up to the center, uncrossing them if you had them crossed. And then just shifting to the other side. So lifting up your right leg this time, crossing it over your left if you liked that eagle leg twist. And then dropping your legs over to the left side of your mat. Your back's stretching out, popping, bringing anything out on this side. And your arms can be anywhere that's comfortable for you. I like to keep them above my head for this pose, just to add more of a chest opener. Spending a little bit more time here, and then we'll move into Shavasana. Inhaling, uncrossing your legs if you had them crossed, then bringing your knees back up to center. And for Shavasana, you are welcome to stretch out your legs out in front of you and just lie flat on your mat. Or if you'd like to bring your feet to the outside edges of your mat and just drop your knees in together, that can be really relaxing in your psoas muscle, your pelvic floor area. Just allows muscles to release in ways that no other posture can, even lying flat. And so choose if you'd like your legs stretched out in front of you, or if you'd like to have your knees knocked in with your feet planted. But just find your Shavasana. We'll be here for 3 minutes, and then I'll guide us through a final breath together. So thank yourself for taking this time. This last pose is not an active pose in any way whatsoever. You don't need to focus on or do anything. You just need to let everything else soak in. So inhaling, exhale, open mouth sigh, and just be here in Shavasana. And wherever you are, coming back to your body, wiggling your fingers and your toes. In your own time, go ahead and roll over to one side. Spend about 30 seconds just in the fetal position, curling your knees in, resting your head on the mat or on an arm. Just lying here curled up, coming into thanking yourself for taking this time for yourself and your body and your mind. You chose to be here. You chose to take this for yourself as an act of love for yourself, an act of compassion. And then in your own time, press into your mat, move yourself up to a seat, whatever that looks like for you, eyes open or closed. Coming back to the position that we began in. Maybe doing some neck rolls, seeing what feels different now than an hour ago. And then bringing your hands to somewhere that's comfortable. Maybe you'd like to have them placed over your heart. Maybe you'd like to have them palms together at chest center, pressing into one another. Just close your eyes. Think of something that you are looking forward to over the next 2 weeks. Think about what it is about that that brings you joy. Maybe a smile comes to your face. And if you can't think of anything, I encourage you today to find something that you're looking forward to over the next 2 weeks that you think will bring you joy. And really just begin to reflect on what it is in life that brings you joy. Someone recently encouraged me to think about the difference between what makes me happy and what brings me joy. And so I encourage you to do the same. Take an inhale breath together. Exhale, sigh out your mouth. Thank you for taking this time today to join me. Enjoy the rest of your day. Namaste.